Hi, Ian here from Onefootball. We're at the Adidas base in Berlin for Facebook Live. I've brought Paddy and Dave with me. Gentlemen, it's the end of the round 16. The big story is that Iceland has beaten England and gone through. Where do we start with all of this?
It's been a rough few days for England, hasn't it? Yeah, all the headlines for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it really, Hodgson's gone now, it's going to take a whole new sweep. This was the same position they were in 2 years ago,
right,
and 2 years before that, and 2 years before that. It just seems to be this never-ending story. This is meant to be the English squad that pushed them, past this mediocrity, right, but it just doesn't seem like it.
Dave, where did it all go wrong last night against Iceland?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because, they had talked so much before the game about how Hodgson, this is a team that he can beat.
Yeah,
right.
Because he had coached in Scandinavia and he knows Lars Lagerbäck, his style so well. And he didn't really ever seem like he put out a game plan where he thought, oh, England have this here,
right,
they're going to get him.
I think that's typical of England's football throughout this tournament. There seems to be this lack of plan from Hodgson. And Hodgson is famously a manager who always comes to a match with a plan and he has his team well drilled. But it's like he's thrown that out the window for this tournament.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I think it's a combination between him having all these wonderful players and really not knowing where to put them, and also pandering to a few egos, perhaps.
Right.
I mean, we saw that at half-time, Eric Dyer, who was arguably one of England's best players in the tournament, was taken off. But Wayne Rooney, who was having an absolute stinker, was left on. So I think it was a little bit of not knowing where to put these talented players, and also not being willing to make the big decisions.
Rooney in midfield, are you a fan?
Well, it's almost like you kind of don't have a choice because he had to play, I suppose, if you're Roy Hodgson and it's that setup, you don't really have another choice. Well, I guess you always have another choice, but he seemed as though he didn't have another choice. And they had such great attacking talent. I felt, at least when I was watching it, there were little glimpses where I thought this actually could work.
Right.
But now we're standing here talking about how they just lost to Iceland.
You're thinking about like the second half against Wales when he played Sturridge and he dropped you take off Kane, I think it was.
Yeah, brought Vardy on.
Sturridge and Vardy in the match just completely changed in their favour.
Really changed the pace. A word for Iceland though, because they're brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they deserve to be where they need to be. We talk about how bad England was there. It's a little bit of a disservice to Iceland because they're very well drilled. You mentioned Lagerbäck before. He's immensely experienced at both club and international level. That team was just prepared. They knew what their weaknesses were and they knew what their strengths were, and they just played to them.
Right. It's just amazing how well they kept together for the entire match too. Like their shape, they never lost shape. They ran all the time. It was really sensational.
Can they win it?
I really want to say yes. And if they were on the other side of the draw, I'd be more inclined to say yes, right? But coming up against France, I think the match is in Paris, the host nation. I don't know, because Ireland had a first good half against France, and arguably the better side in the first half.
They don't look like they can't be beaten. France, they definitely have their weak points.
I mean, we were talking about as well that France have had trouble actually breaking down some of these smaller teams and have sort of found a new gear when it's counted, but it hasn't been a consistent exercise of quality by France during this tournament.
I don't know if it's one of our topics for today, but France has certainly been the team that disappointed me the most at this tournament because of my high expectations for them. I thought Griezmann has done well in the last few matches, but I really thought Pogba was going to run the show.
Yeah, I think he did too, as well. I mean, a lot of pressure on him, and I think that was part of it. You looked around, not just in the buzz around the team, but also all the advertising before this tournament. Everything's about Pogboom. Is it Pogboom or whatever it is? So there was a lot of pressure on him. He probably thought it was going to be his tournament. I think he's worked his way into it, to be honest, a little bit.
He's getting a bit better.
Yeah, exactly. Just like the France team, I think we're seeing a bit more of a complete performance as we go along. Still not there yet, though.
So we're all with France to beat Iceland then?
Unfortunately, as much as I really don't want to say it.
One of the other quarterfinals is Italy against Germany. Italy, famously Germany's arch nemesis. Germany have never beaten them in a competitive match. But Germany were brilliant against Slovakia. It's Slovakia, but still.
No, but again, I mean, I think they're starting to find their gear as well. I think Löw's got the most balance he's had all tournament. With Kimmich at right back, he's brought in Gomez to sort of add some structure to that midfield. Sorry, to the front line, and then Draxler being on the left instead of Götze really worked for me.
How good was Draxler?
Draxler was fantastic. It's the Draxler we want to see.
We've been waiting to see for years.
He had a real up and down season this year at Wolfsburg. So it was good to see him really in a good spot and playing as well as he can.
And the thing is, because we all know he's got that skill in him, and he's got that immense talent. It's lovely to see him produce it on such a big stage.
Bigger stage to come, of course. Yeah.
Bigger stage to come. So what do we think? Italy, I mean, we're brilliant against Spain. A Spain that many thought might have snuck into the final.
Perhaps relying on some former times a little bit.
Maybe a little bit, yeah. So anyway, Italy are through.
Yeah.
How do we see it?
Just on the Spain thing, I think you've got to give Conte a little bit of credit here because Del Bosque brought a couple of these older guys in, like Pedro, who hasn't had a good season.
Yeah.
Whereas Conte was happy to sort of rip things out a little bit, and we saw with Pirlo not coming and a couple of other older guys that he was happy enough to change things up. And there's a lot of doubt on Italy before this tournament, but he's got a group that believes in how they should play and the results we're seeing now, and that's why just about every German in this country is absolutely
quaking in their later.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm worried that they're going to be going out. That's it for the world champions, Germany.
Yeah.
They're done after Italy, just because they're obviously, when you look at their squad, Germany have perhaps the best team, certainly a better team than Italy have.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really matter when it comes to tournaments. In Italy, nobody really thought much about them going into this tournament, and every single match they played, they almost seemed like they're getting better. When they were playing against Spain, it was just like, minutes into the match, you're like, yeah, they have this one here.
But, well, I mean, we did some videos beforehand with predictions, and absolutely everybody said Italy were going to be going home in tears, except one person. I don't want to name names, but it was one Irish person, Ian Maxey or I'm a court.
Never heard of him.
Something like that.
Sounds like a real wanker too.
Well, he also predicted that the Belgians would be going home in tears, so just goes to show what he knows.
Do we actually have any questions as yet, Ryan? We should say that if anyone's watching, they should definitely question what we're saying here, because we think we know what we're saying, but
Well, we think. Conte provided me, just to get back to Italy for a second, Conte provided me with one of my favourite moments of the tournament. I don't know if you saw.
When he kicked the ball away?
No, not when he kicked the ball away, that was pretty good. But when he celebrated the goal.
Yeah,
Or the end of was it the end of the match or was it the goal?
Yeah, I can't remember.
I think it might have been the goal.
Yeah.
But did you see this?
What did he do?
He basically turned, hugged somebody, then jumped up on top of the dugout and started slamming the roof of the dugout. It was fantastic, almost as good as Steve McLaren yesterday.
That's enough one.
Okay, moving on. Belgium, Portugal are through. I don't know how much we have to say about those two.
Yeah, I mean, Portugal are an interesting one. They, as we know, they still haven't won a game at this tournament within 90 minutes. But they do have some weapons, and that's been enough to get them through at this point.
Yeah.
It's going to change now. As we're seeing with a lot of these big teams, they're starting to fall by the wayside. So there's no passengers anymore.
Ronaldo, what have you made of his performances so far, Dave?
Well, he's been sort of what you expect to see when you see Ronaldo playing for Portugal. In the big tournament games, sometimes you wonder if it's really all clicking right with his teammates, and that's been the case so far. But they're on the right side of the bracket, so it doesn't really matter how.
That is true.
He doesn't have to be his absolute best self, and Portugal don't have to be the best team that they could be, that we all know they could be, but usually never are. So I think there's plenty more to be seen from him. He's got opportunities to go still.
They just planned it so well, didn't they, Portugal?
Yeah, really.
That sort of leads us on to talking about the big players so far. I mean, I think we've all been really disappointed in how Rooney's done. I don't think any of us are really convinced he's a deep-lying midfielder.
Correct.
What about the rest of the big players? Eden Hazard has started to come through a bit.
Yeah.
Griezmann, as we said before, started to come through a bit.
Pogba as well. I think the big ones are starting to build into the tournament. We saw with Ronaldo going back a step. I mean, it wasn't until against Hungary that he really sort of stood up. And I actually think that this might now, as we saw in the last Euros, when he was actually firing by the end, this might actually be the time for him. But I mean, I think by and large, though, the bigger players have taken their time to work into this tournament.
Okay, we've got a question. Thank you very much. Who do we think can't win?
It's a great question.
It's an unusual way of putting it.
Yeah.
Well, Germany, because they're playing Italy.
That's
I
one
think
way.
that's you can lock that one in.
Iceland can't, I would say.
England are going to struggle now.
England, they're really going to struggle.
Yeah.
Who can't win?
Well, Wales, I mean, how do we think about Wales? Again, on the right side of the draw.
I would say Poland also.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I think Wales are going to make it to a semi-final.
I do too, actually.
I think they're going to beat Belgium.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
Well, that's a big statement to make.
They get they could potentially get Poland then in a semi-final?
Or Portugal.
Or Portugal.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Poland will beat Portugal. I think Lewandowski's due a goal or two. What, you're not so convinced?
Nah, not so convinced. Lewandowski's probably one player that a few people have been disappointed. We were just talking about the big players.
Absolutely.
I mean, he hasn't he's had zero luck in front of goal. When I say luck, skill as well, because he's missed some big sitters.
Took a nice penalty.
Yeah, took a nice penalty. But I also think he's actually taken a step back into a bit of a playmaker role with Poland to allow Milik to try and flourish.
That is true.
And the problem is that Milik hasn't really overly convinced yet either. So when you've got both of them sort of playing half roles, I mean, Poland done well to finish like this, but I don't know if they can beat Portugal.
And we see what happens when you take the big superstars like Zlatan Ibrahimovic or Wayne Rooney and turn them into playmakers for the national teams, and things don't go very well.
Yeah.
Okay, I still think Wales can make it to the final. No, sorry, semi-final. No, sorry, what am I talking about? No, to the final.
Yeah.
Live Facebook. Did we have any more questions that people wanted to ask? Any more topics that either of you guys would like to raise while we're here?
No,
Get
I
off
think
your
that's
chests.
pretty good for us. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Okay. That's all from us at the Adidas Basin here in Berlin.